we might be getting a little bit too old to play with toys. But that's definitely not stopping us from playing a children's card game, so here's how the Terrortop engine works. If you draw into Terrortop, you can special summon it from your hand so long as you don't control any monsters, and then you get to trigger its effect to add any Speedroid monster from your deck to hand. You have a mountain of different options to choose from for this effect, with a ton of powerful tuners, extenders, and starters that Speedroid pilots are going to be well acquainted with. But most decks that use Terrortop aren't planning on using it for synchro plays, which is why they usually grab a Speedroid Taketomborg. After you add Taketomborg to your hand, you can special summon to the field for free since you control a wind monster in Speedroid Terrortop. And it just so happens that Top and Taketomborg are level 3 monsters, allowing it to overlay into any rank 3 of your choosing. Or you can instead just link these monsters away for a strong link 2 play. What you summon with Terrortop will often vary on the deck you're playing and what you want from the engine, but with just a single card you can open up the entire rank 3 pool, summon a link 2 of choice, or just 2 bodies you can tribute away for Vanity's Ruler since you haven't used your normal summon. But as fun as spinning this top is, the game that we're playing is Yu-Gi-Oh, not Beyblade. So we need to look into engine's ratio so we can really let it rip. Thankfully, if you want to play this engine, you don't need to commit too much in terms of deck space. All you need to play are 3 copies of Speedroid Terrortop, since you want to see it as often as possible, and 1 copy of Speedroid Taketomborg, which conversely you don't want to see in your opening hand at all, as it's only really useful as an extender if you commit a wind monster to the field. Regardless, after you've finished spinning your wheels, you're going to need some kind of payoff for these bodies to go into. And the best part of the Terrortop engine is that, so long as you don't use Taketomborg's effect, it has no locks, allowing you to go into any rank 3s or link 2s that you could want, whether you need a monster to protect your plays, add pieces of interaction to an end board, or even a way to bridge into your main archetype. But before we let ourselves get blown away by our options, let's look into mechanics of these machines, starting off with our main engine piece in Speedroid Terrortop. Now, for such a powerful card, Terrortop's effect is surprisingly simple, as all it does is let you add a Speedroid monster other than itself from your deck to your hand whenever it's summoned. Even if you had to normal summon Terrortop, this effect is still amazing, as you could still grab a Taketomborg to hand, which gives you 2 level 3s on board, which would give it a similar utility to the likes of Tour Guide of the Underworld. But the thing that drives Top over the edge is that you don't have to normal summon it at all. Because so long as you control no monsters, Terrortop lets you special summon it from your hand for free. And it's this simple summoning condition that makes Terrortop such a strong choice in a whole host of different strategies. Because while a card like Tour Guide is still an incredibly strong tool in the modern era, it's going to use up your normal summon if you want to access your extra deck with it, which can be a problem if it competes with the normal summon of your main engine. But for Terrortop to be rank 3 or link 2, you just have to use it before you commit your other monsters to the field, which makes it both an excellent way to start out your turn, or a solid push into an opponent's board, especially if they have any kind of interaction they're hoping to save for your main engine, as now they're basically forced to use a hand trap, negate, or removal pieces on your Terrortop due to the looming threat of a powerful Xyz or Lynx sleeping within your extra deck, ready to be awakened. Because if your Terrortop resolves, you have a number of incredible options to choose from, and it almost feels unfair to be able to bring out such strong tools to the field without using your normal summon. But for Terrortop to be as crazy as it is, you need a good target to search for, and Taketomborg happens to be the best of the bunch, at least for generic use. Taketomborg's on-field effect is invaluable for Speedroid strategies, as it gives you immediate access to any of the deck's best tuners, allowing you to take advantage of both their levels and their amazing effects. From the likes of Red Eye Dice, which can alter its level to go into any wind synchro you could need, or Modoshi Piper acting as an archetypal pot of prosperity for the deck. But using the effect outside of Speedroid is usually going to be a detriment, because it's going to lock you into only being able to special summon wind monsters for the rest of the turn. And while there are quite a few powerful wind strategies and payoffs in the game, there aren't enough decks out there that can really play around it. However, that's more than okay because this lock is only attached to Taketomborg's effect and not its summoning condition, which lets you special summon it out from your hand for free as long as you control any wind monster on your side of the field. Now, there are other Speedroid extenders that you could theoretically be playing instead of Taketomborg to search with Terrortop, and a card like CarTurbo is technically an even better body than Taketomborg due to being a tuner, opening a wider array of options for what Terrortop could turn into. But these extenders have locks that prevent you from using either of their effects, or special summoning non-wind monsters. This makes them terrible choices for most strategies. That's why Taketomborg is so valuable, because not only does Terrortop search for Taketomborg, Terrortop is a wind monster, fulfilling the summoning condition necessary for Taketomborg. And because these two monsters just so happen to share a level, there are a ton of useful and fun options that the engine enables. Not only that, but due to the lack of locks on either card, just about any deck can play it. But now that we've explored the relationship between Taketomborg and Terrortop and why this package functions as well as it does, let's unbamboozle the reasons why we'd actually want to play the engine and gossip about its potential payoffs. By starting off with number 75, Bamboozling Gossip Shadow. You can make Gossip Shadow with 2 or more level 3 monsters, and it has a decent secondary effect to attach itself and its materials to another number Xyz monster you control. An effect you might remember from the early days of Master Duel, where Phantom Knights would often make Gossip Shadow to give their Rongominiad enough materials to lock your opponent out of play in the game. Now, due to the ban of Rongominiad in both the TCG and Master Duel, this effect often isn't too relevant currently. However, Gossip Shadow has another effect which pairs perfectly with the Speedroid package. As on a soft once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can detach 2 materials from Gossip Shadow at quick effect speed to alter your opponent's effect, changing it from what it was to both players drawing 1 card. This isn't exactly a negate in the traditional sense, but it might as well be one, as you can prevent your opponent's devastating monster effects from having an impact on your turn, which lets you convert a Terrortop into a way to deal with your opponent's negates and boss monsters when going second, or to stop a potentially catastrophic hand trap when going first. This makes Shadow a premier target for you to bring out with Terrortop. You need to start off with top early in your turn anyway because of its summoning condition, well, before you commit to your main engine, which puts your opponent in a really awkward position with their interactions. If your opponent doesn't stop your Terrortop, it means that you can summon out Shadow to have a pseudo-negate ready to prevent them from hand trapping or negating your best cards. And if they do stop Terrortop, then they won't be able to use that hand trap or endboard piece on your main engine, and you'll still have your normal summon available, making it a lose-lose situation for your opponent no matter what they choose. Now, there are a couple of downsides to Gossip Shadow. Giving your opponent a free draw definitely doesn't feel good, but within the limited pool of rank 3 negate options, Gossip is undoubtedly one of the best and easiest to use since it doesn't require any extra pieces to function. But if you really don't want to give your opponent any free draw, you can commit another engine by using Terrortop to summon Ghost Trick Alucard and join NPT's war on the Ghost Trick community. Alucard's effects are actually pretty great. You can pop an opponent's set card, preventing your face-down monsters and other Ghost Tricks from being targeted for attacks, and even has a good graveyard effect to recur your Ghost Tricks from the grave. But the most important part about Alucard is that it's a Ghost Trick Xyz that you can overlay Angel of Mischief on top of, allowing you to perform the full Ghost Trick combo to reach number F0 Utopic Draco Future. Now, we've actually talked about this combo on this series before, but if you need a quick recap, you use Terrortop to summon Alucard, overlay Angel of Mischief on top of Alucard, then use Angel of Mischief's effect to detach an Alucard in order to search for Ghost Trick Shot. After that, you use Ghost Trick Shot to special summon Alucard back to your field, and then you can overlay into a second Angel of Mischief, since it has no once per turn on its alternative summon condition or its effect, allowing you to use your second Angel to search for another Ghost Trick card if you have a second target, while getting Alucard to the grave so you can add back your first Ghost Trick Shot. Then you can overlay your 2 Angel of Mischiefs into number F0 Utopic Future and then number F0 Utopic Draco Future, a monster negate that also can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, making it an incredible boss monster to supplement an end board that, as we've shown, you get to do with a single Terrortop that, like Gossip Shadow, can protect you from your opponent's monster effects, but without giving them any kind of free card advantage. Although F0 definitely has its downsides. You need to be willing to commit at least 5 spots in your extra deck for this engine to work, and some decks just don't have the space to spare to reach this negate. And even if you do have the extra room, you have to play Ghost Trick Shot as a hard garnet for the strategy. That, when paired with Taketomborg, makes for 2 pretty bad bricks to draw. And an extra downside that both Shadow and F0 share is that while they're incredible tools for stopping monster effects, they're pretty ineffective at stopping a straight Infinite Impermanence or a triple tactics talent, which is why you might be tempted to use Terrortop to summon out Totem Bird instead. Because Totem Bird has an effect that lets you detach 2 materials from it to negate the activation of any spell or trap card and then destroy it, with the only downside using this effect that it will lose 300 attack once it has no more materials. Now, it's pretty rare that you'll see Totem Bird summoned from Terrortop, not because it's a bad card, but because your opponent's interactions, hand traps, and enablers are more likely to be monsters than they are to be spells or traps. It's usually a better idea to hedge your bets with a monster negate instead when you have the choice between the two. But as a supplemental endboard piece for your main engine, Taketomborg is an incredibly threatening card, and one that can cover up some of the weaknesses of your main engine. A deck like Phantom Knights, for example, has some excellent tools when dealing with monsters and their effects, but can struggle when they have to deal with powerful spell or trap cards, which makes Terrortop into Taketomborg a solid choice for that strategy. And with the ever-increasing number of back row-based hand traps permeating to the metagame, Taketomborg's utility is going to get even more versatile by the minute. Now, there are other negates in the rank 3 pool that we could use Terrortop to summon to further increase the power of your favorite strategy's endboard. From Cicada King to Long Long, but Top is more than just a glorified copy of Crossout Designator that you use to stop hand traps or to just supplement endboard pieces. Because, for some decks, Terrortop is actually a way for you to bridge into your main engine. Goblin Biker Big Gabanga is one of the coolest examples of this, and is a huge reason why Terrortop is a staple part of the Goblin strategy. Gabanga has some solid effects. You can attach a face-up monster on field to itself, including an opponent's monster, if an Xyz material is detached from any monster, and you even get to attach a Goblin monster from your deck to Big Gabanga as an Xyz material during each end phase. But the biggest part of the card is for sure its first effect, which lets you add any Goblin monster from your deck to hand when it's Xyz summoned. This is a boon to Goblin decks, because not only does a single Terrortop get you to any monster in your deck, but it also immediately provides you with an Xyz that you can detach materials from to bring out the goblins you already have in hand, or even the one that you search, giving you an instant way to start your plays by searching the likes of a Dug Charger so that you can also get to the deck's back row. Now, this is of course excellent for goblins, but the reason why Big Gabanga and the Goblin Bikers are so interesting is because there are a few archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! That, while not affiliated with Goblin Biker in any way, happen to have a Goblin monster in their strategy. Scrap Goblin, Toon Goblin Attack Force, and even Goblinberg are all available targets to be searched for with either Big Gabanga or with a Grand Entrance. But the most interesting of them all is definitely Momentum to land Goblin. Like in Goblin, you can use Terrortop to summon Big Gabanga and then add Dug Charger from your deck to your hand. And then you can use Charger's effect to add Goblin Biker Grand Entrance from your deck to your hand so that you can search out a Memento and Goblin, and then you can use that bonus effect of Grand Entrance to special summon your Memento from your hand by detaching a material from Big Gabanga, so that you can then use its on-field effect to destroy itself and also get access to your Memento cards. But it's not just goblins that get to use their best cards through Terrortop, as there are quite a few other decks that really value Top's ability to find their best cards with Gold Pride, often considering Terrortop due to its ability to make Chariot carry. Because if you make Chariot carry, you can detach material to add a Gold Pride spell card from your deck to your hand, with one of the strongest options being Better Luck Next Time, a continuous spell that not only searches for any monster in your deck, but will also lower your life points by the attack of the monster you add. This is really important for Gold Pride, as every one of their monsters can special summon themselves from their hand as long as your life points are lower than your opponent's. So getting to Better Luck Next Time, or any other way to lower your life points, will often be the key to unlocking your hand. This is the reason why you'll often see Gold Pride paired with a Punk engine, as the Amin will lower your life points so that you can special summon out your Gold Pride monsters from your hand, and can even bridge into Chariot carry by using a Foxy Toon you search with the Amin to summon another level 3 Punk from your deck, or Rising Carp to get you 2 other level 3 Punks from your deck on board. The neat part about summoning carry this way is that you get to use the bonus of Chariot carry's effect to Foolish a Gold Pride monster after you add a spell, since your life points were to be lower, which can be really important to do because of Chariot's mandatory end phase tag out effect, which can summon out Captain Carry from the graveyard. Now, Terrortop unfortunately won't let you Foolish with Chariot carry like starting with the Punk cards, unless you can lower your life points some of the way beforehand. But it still has its benefits as a starter, namely being that in a Punk engine usually requires a lot of your main deck slots for you to get the most out of it, while Top just needs Taketomborg to search for you to get your plays, and you can just as easily flex into one of the negates we mentioned earlier if you already have a way to get your engine. As a result, Terrortop is a great addition to the Gold Pride arsenal, but especially so in pure variants that want other starters, but also some extra room to play some more not-engine. Likewise, Terrortop also seen playing Salamangreat strategies, as it just so happens that Salamangreat Mirage Stalio is completely generic as a rank 3, which can summon out any salad monster from your deck for free, which is an excellent way of summoning out the likes of Gazelle, even if you didn't have in your opening hand, resulting in 2 Fire Cyber's bodies you can use to start off your link plays. And while Mirage Stalio does lock into only using fire monster effects, this lock isn't retroactive, and only applies for the rest of the turn, which once again makes Terrortop a solid way to start out your turn. But it's not just your main engine that Terrortop can bridge into, as it can get to yet another engine we've talked about on this channel before, The Armored XC's package, specifically because XC's Armored Torpedo happens to be a generic rank 3. This saw a decent chunk of experimentation in Mikanko due to the innate synergy that existed between the two archetypes. The regular Mikanko monsters are all level 3 monsters that you can use to get a torpedo if you don't have Terrortop. Their equip cards can trigger the effect of Dark Knight Lancer to attach an opponent's monster, and you can use Armored XCs that you search from XC's Armor Fortress to equip your Mikankos with a card so that you can use their effects. But if you're playing Terrortop, getting to this package is simple. So simple, in fact, that you can play it in just about anything if you're willing to commit a full Armored XCs in your main deck, which might be worth it since summoning Torpedo gives you a free draw, replacing the Terrortop you used to summon it, and potentially even unlocking your hand in the process, all the while setting up for a summon of an Armored Fortress for you to overlay on top of your Torpedo. We could honestly talk about the rank 3s that Terrortop can get into all day. You can play it with Burning Abyss or any kind of mill strategy to enable a Dante. You can go into Gram Pulse to deal with an opponent's annoying Floodgate, or you could just use Terrortop to simply enable a Zeus with Fortune Tune and break an opponent's board. But it's not just rank 3s that Terrortop can enable. Like we talked about before, this compact engine has no locks that you need to worry about, which can also make Terrortop a perfect choice if there's a particular Link 2 you want to summon. We've recently seen just how strong any 2 effect monsters can be if they're able to bring out Moon of the Closed Heaven, the only Link 2 Light Fiend monster with generic materials, which makes any 2 effect monsters into Fiendish Smith combo by linking off your Moon into Fiendsmith Requiem. But in terms of what Terrortop specifically enables, there's one absurdly strong link option it pairs excellently with: Cherubini Ebon Angel the Burning Abyss. Because while Cherubini isn't a rank 3, it might as well be one because it can only be made using 2 level 3 monsters, and fitting to its requirements, it has 3 effects, all of which are pretty great. It protects monsters it points to from being destroyed by card effects, can protect itself from destruction by sending another card you control to the graveyard, and can even increase the attack and defense of a Burning Abyss monster you control. But the best part of Cherubini isn't its effects, it's its cost to activate its attack gain effect that's really valuable. Because in order to use it, you need to send a level 3 monster from your deck to the graveyard, and the monster you target will then gain attack and defense equal to the stats of the monster you sent. And because Cherubini is a Burning Abyss monster, you'll always be a valid target ready for you to use your effect. Now, because this send is a cost and not an effect, you won't be able to use the graveyard effects of a card like Tearlament's Halfness. But that doesn't matter too much because there are still a ton of other amazing targets with powerful graveyard effects that you can send instead. The classic examples, the old Burning Abyss engine that Phantom Knights used to use. By sending Graph with Cherubini, you could summon Seer directly from your deck so that you could link climb into Rusty Bardiche to get to your Phantom Knight engine, and then use Seer's effect to revive Cherubini and use it as a free links to worth of materials to eventually climb into Appaloosa. Nowadays though, the Burning Abyss package doesn't really see too much play in Phantom Knights anymore, although Cherubini is still an amazing tool for the deck, and will often be used to send your Phantom Knights to the graveyard so you can take advantage of their powerful effects. Or alternatively, if you're playing the Adventure package as a secondary engine, you can instead choose to send a copy of Water Enchantress of the Temple to the graveyard so that you can banish to search for Rite of Aramasir. Because Rite gets you to the rest of the Adventure engine by summoning an Adventure token and setting up Fateful Adventure, which can get you to Griffin Rider, an amazing Omni Negate that can be used to either protect your plays or to negate your opponents. Usually, most strategies need to hard draw into some way of accessing Rite, but if you're playing a level 3 focused strategy, or you've opened a Terrortop, you can easily get away to this powerful package thanks to Cherubini. And Terrortop specifically works amazingly well as a bridge into this engine, specifically because it doesn't need to be normal summoned. This is always going to be a point in Terrortop's favor, but is great here because Rite of Aramasir prevents you from using the effects of normal summon monsters during the turn you activate it, and that includes retroactively. So if you use the effect of a normal summon tour guide to get to Cherubini, your Adventure engine is now offline. Because Top is usually going to be special summoned, it's a great way to get to your Adventure cards through Cherubini in a ton of different strategies. And that's the main appeal of Terrortop as an engine in general. You can splash it in a whole host of different decks and archetypes without using a ton of deck space, or erasing the identity of your archetype you want to play. It's a really good example of a usable and strong engine that isn't entirely overpowered either. It's honestly surprising how many options this small package has available to it. And given that Terrortop has now been released on the ban list and is available at 3 copies in both the TCG and Master Duel, there's no doubt this engine is going to see play in a ton of different rogue strategies in the future, and might even reach the heights of the metagame once again if there's a deck that really values its rank 3s that's vying for viability. Hey you, are you tired of boring, predictable merch? Wouldn't you love it if you could have something more exciting? Well, we have nothing like that for you, but we do have something pretty similar. Introducing the TheDuelLogs TCG Mystery Box. It comes with playmats, card sleeves, a deck box, and not one, but 2 TheDuelLogs mini plushies. Order yours today. Check the link in the video description or the display under the video.